The orange sweet rolls are from the Pioneer Woman, and she makes the dough all in the pot and puts it in the fridge, and then she does it the next day. I might do that, I don't really know though, but we're going to make orange sweet rolls right now. I wrote it down kind of haphazardly, but I'm sure that there's a link on the internet, but I'll link that below. Also, I'm going to be using my Lodge cast iron enameled cooking situation, and I'm going to be making the dough. I'm going to put it on in between medium and low heat. We need this to become 125 degrees so that the yeast will activate. At around 125. I don't think it has to be exact. So I have the milk here. 2 cups full milk. Aren't these cool? I got them from the Home Shopping Network, from the Simply Ming collection. They can withstand almost 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I got them for the fancy pots I got for my induction burner. Yeah, I went shopping. Don't judge me. Half a cup vegetable oil. Half a cup sugar. Sugar and oil probably cooled it down a little bit. I don't think you have to be this technical, but I'm not familiar with this recipe at all, so I'm going to be pretty technical. Okay, we're almost at We're at 120 degrees exactly. It says 125, but I think 120 is good enough for me. So I'm going to turn off the heat, and I'm going to add 1 package of active dry yeast. And she says here that that's 2 1/4 teaspoons for those of you that keep your yeast in a jar. But I just have the packets. Sugar activates the yeast. The yeast feeds off of the sugar, and as it eats, it produces the gases that make the dough rise. So when you're using yeast, you always need something sweet to make the yeast go. Oftentimes when I'm making bread, that sweet agent is going to be honey. I'm removing it from the heat. There's residual heat on this burner, so I'm just going to put it back here as I add the 4 1/2 cups all-purpose flour. There's 4 cups. Depending on your elevation, you may need less or more flour. You'll be able to tell, I promise. It says to add 4 cups right now because we add the 1/2 cup later, so I just put 4 cups flour in there, and I'm saving the other 1/2 cup for after it rises, I'm assuming. It's nice and warm. If you're in a freezing cold kitchen and making bread or dough or anything that you want to rise, you might have a little bit of a problem. A nice warm kitchen, which is a pain to cook in. I hate cooking when I'm hot, because the oven's on and I'm just getting more hot, and I'm very irritable when I'm hot. So, though it sucks, a warm kitchen is the best kitchen when you're making any kind of rising dough using yeast. So as I wrote this recipe down, it says to add these, heat to 125, did that, remove from heat and add these, boom, and then cover for 1 hour at least. I have my thing set to 1 hour, and I'm just going to leave it right here on the stove. There's a little bit of warmth coming off this burner still, but I shut it off so it'll keep it nice and warm and let it rise. I like her idea to do it in the pot because I can cover it. I don't have to worry about using cellophane. If you don't cover it, your dough will get hard spots. It'll get stale really fast. So covering your dough when it rises is imperative, and it also just creates this sauna-like spa environment for it. And when that is done rising in an hour, we are going to stir in the rest of the ingredients and then roll it out, and then do the filling, and then you'll see. Okay, join me over here, won't you? This has been well over an hour of rising. Okay, I need to say that at this point, this pot had been sitting on the stove through the baking of cranberry bars and the lemon bars. It was getting really hot, and I feel like this is where I went terribly wrong, and you'll see later how my dough turned out. Don't let it sit on the stove and get really hot. It just needs to stay warm, not hot. And it was like sweating when I opened that lid. I should have set it on the counter to rise, not on the hot 400-degree oven, because my rolls did not turn out. Half a teaspoon baking soda, 1 teaspoon salt. Whoa. Oh, 1 rounded teaspoon baking powder. And I'm going to add that last 1/4 cup of flour. Just going to mix that all in here. I'm going to see if I can't just get away with making the icing right now and pulling it out of the fridge tomorrow. I've got the zest and the juice of 2 oranges in here. I need 4 cups powdered sugar. I've already put 4 tablespoons of butter in there, or half a stick. A dash of salt. Half a cup milk. Maybe that's why it told me to sift it, because I've got little powdered sugar chunks. Oh well. Sorry, I made a lot of videos and I had this footage all in one event, so I lost a bunch of stuff and the volume got screwed up and it was bad. Anyway, so the previous clip showed me mixing in the last of the ingredients, and then you were at the point where you could roll out the dough. It was too hot for me to do that day, so it was sitting in the fridge overnight. I took it out of that hot pot, put it on the counter, realized it was too hot, put it back in this glass bowl, wrapped it up, and put it in the fridge, and this is the next day. So I'm just peeling the dough out of the bowl. I've floured the counter already. The dough is really easy to work with, so in a perfect world, I should have made the dough, let it rest for 1 hour, not on a scalding hot stovetop, but perhaps on the counter, and then I should have added the last 3 ingredients, stirred it all in, and then set it in the fridge immediately until the next day, which is what the Pioneer Woman does on her episode when she makes this. So I'm going to try to link the video in the description, but I will at least have the recipe. Where I went wrong, obviously, is letting it sit on the hot stove for more than an hour before I added those last 3 ingredients. Eventually, though, the dough did make it to the fridge, and I've pulled it out the next day, and it's really easy to work with. I was very pleased. She says to roll the dough out into a 10 by 30 inch rectangle, and that's what I'm doing here. She says to, did I say that already? Roll it out in a 10 by 30 inch rectangle. I measured my counter space. I have 27 inches there. I kept getting frustrated because things were in my way, but I tried my best. I even took a measuring tape and measured 10 by 30 because I had no idea how long that was, but it was pretty easy to do. We are going to do 1 stick of butter all over the entire surface. Screw it. 8 tablespoons of orange marmalade. I don't think I have enough. I'm just going to spread what I have. And 1 cup of brown sugar. A 1/4 teaspoon kosher. Then she rolls the dough into a 10 by 30 rectangle, very thin. I did that. Rolled dough like a typewriter. So she took it from here on her show and just started, when she says like a typewriter, that means to just, when you get to one end, you just come right back the other way. Crap. She pinches this to seal it a little. I don't know if I was supposed to grease my pan, but I did. I just have my cooking pan here, and I'm going to cut half-inch pieces. A little bigger than half-inch for me. So half the roll made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 12. 12. Half the roll made about 12-ish, 14-ish cinnamon, or not cinnamon rolls, orange sweet rolls. So I'm gonna have to do this in 2 batches. This made a lot of cinnamon, or gosh, what do I keep calling that for? This made a lot of sweet rolls. So I'm gonna have to bake them in batches. But right now, because the dough is cold and yeast kind of goes to sleep when it gets cold, as it warms up, these will rise a little. Even if you didn't have them in the fridge, after rolling them out, you need to wait for them to rise again. So wait 20 minutes for them to rise a little and then put them in the oven. The good thing is they don't take long to bake. I have the first batch I did on just the regular baking dish, a little cooking grease, and these are the pretty ones. When I did the roll, my ends got narrow, and it's really because I don't have enough counter space, and I'm on my way to work, so I really didn't care to try to make it perfect anyway. So these are going to be the pretty ones. Then I have some leftover ones from either ends of the roll that are kind of wonky, a little bit thin, and I put them on my dark cookie pan, but I put one of those silicone mats on the pan surface. I don't always use a silicone mat because sometimes it does affect the way that the cookie turns out. Like I do not make my snickerdoodles on the silicone mat because they don't rise and crack like they do on just the metal. So there are some things I use my silicone mat for and some things that I don't. And I've obviously never made sweet rolls, cinnamon rolls, or anything from scratch before, so I don't know how this is going to turn out. But at least we're going to have 2 different ways to tell how they end up. So I'm going to let these rise for a little while, 20 minutes, and then bake them in the oven for 15 to 17 minutes. And then I'm going to spread that icing over them straight out of the oven so that it sinks down into the rolls. So I pulled the icing I made last night out of the fridge, and I did not sift the sugar, powdered sugar, so it's kind of lumpy, and I think maybe that's because I didn't sift the powdered sugar. So I would definitely sift the powdered sugar like she told us to do. So in order to fix it, I'm just going to try to pulverize it. That is much prettier. Oh my gosh, I obviously did something terribly wrong. They're just falling right apart. I don't know what I did. I don't know how to fix it. Shit. They're just unraveling. I'm just stacking them in this pot. Let's pour some of this on it. Look what happened to them. They've completely unspiraled. The shape okay, but what worries me about them unspiraling is that they lost a lot of their juices. And I tried to scoop it back on top of them, but so these sweet rolls. I didn't know what to do with them. I put them in my Dutch oven to try to keep them compact, but then when I filled it with the frosting, it drowned them. So then I changed it to my 9 by 13 inch baking pan. And I kind of set them on top of each other and poured the icing. They fell apart. I mean, like, the spirals are very loose, so they lost some of their innards. I don't know if that's because I had too much filling, so it just slipped apart, or what I did and what could fix this, but that's what happened there. And I did try some earlier. The flavor is delicious. I love orange. I still have some of that marmalade despite it falling apart. The brown sugar might have been a little lost also. It is very sweet. You could go lighter on the brown sugar and not add so much powdered sugar to the glaze maybe, but I like sweet things. I love the orange flavor. The dough is a really good tasting dough. The texture is chewy and like not toasted on top, kind of toasted on top, but the layers of dough, it's like firm on top but flaky and chewy in the middle. Is there a better sweet roll? I think that it would be really good if I added cream cheese somehow. Maybe I'll figure out a way to make like a cream cheese sweet orange roll or something. The orange taste is very fresh. If you use a ton of orange marmalade, I don't know if you've ever tried orange marmalade, but there is zest in there, so it's kind of bitter a little bit. But I didn't get that with these sweet rolls because it was a very thin layer and it was coupled with brown sugar and butter, savory butter, so it helped that aspect of it. But I do like the dough, and I will try to make cinnamon rolls, but I'm not going to try this again immediately. Like, it's a really good thing to have with a lot of people on a good breakfast, and I'll keep it around. And it is really delicious. But the way it fell apart, I don't know if it's my fault. I gotta get ready for work. Bye. How could I have forgotten to rate these? I didn't forget, I just must have lost the footage. It's been quite a mess of me trying to figure out how to... I shouldn't have recorded these all at once. I gave these a solid 7. I think they could have been higher perhaps if I didn't screw them up somehow. And I might have even thought about giving them a 9 if I added cream cheese or something. I ate these with for breakfast with peppered bacon, thick peppered bacon, which counteracted the sweetness perfectly, and a cup of coffee. So it's pretty good. Let me know what you think.